Hi, y'all. It's Brigitte Cutshall with Real Things Living. Today, my guest is Kathleen Klug. She is an author and is a health coach, and she's on a mission to help people connect their body, mind, and spirit. Can you say hi, Kathleen?
Hi, Bridget. Thanks for having me.
Thank you. I like having these kind of conversations. People need to understand how important um, connecting everything in your body is. There's just not one solution, right? And I got into the holistic side of things after my health issues, but because we take things for granted, and then you have to be curious, and that's probably why you got into this field. I guess my first question is, what got you interested into holistic health?
Well, I had the good fortune to start an exercise practice young. Now, it wasn't sports. I'm one of 8 kids. I'm a twin, and I'm number 7, and my sister's number 8. And my brothers played football, and they got the sports, but we didn't. So it wasn't. We never did organized sports, but we always moved and played and stuff. And then when we were about 18, we both started getting into dance aerobics, as it was many years ago. And this was in the early 80s. And so really that was how I entered into the idea of just movement. Became my exercise regimen. Shortly after that, I got into teaching group exercise, and over the next 35 years, I taught different formats, from cycle to strength to step to strength, or kickboxing. And then, of course, the good old dance aerobics for many years.
Right.
And also, in this time, I also trained as a personal trainer out of my house for 10 years. And then I also, in that time, I also got finished my degree in addiction studies and worked in the field of alcohol and drug abuse for a while, early prevention and education. And really, all of that came together in what holistic health looked like, whether you're recovering from alcohol and drug use, abuse, whatever it might be, to recovering from a health issue, or just really wanting to live a healthy life. All of that in this experience and my learning, in addition to my own personal healing, emotional healing, in the area of forgiveness. Because I grew up in a really crazy family, loving family, amazing, beautiful family. But my father was a crazy alcoholic. And so there was, if we use the word trauma now, so I'll use that. There was a lot of trauma and fear, and a lot of stuck anger that I didn't even know I had. So in my 20s, I also processed this in this with the help of therapy, and moved through the process of true and complete forgiveness. And I realized that I was healthier afterwards. So over these years, I have been in fitness and wellness, and also addiction, and also my personal healing. And then I went to the Institute of Integrative Nutrition, and I really felt I was home then, because everything I had experienced, everything I knew intuitively, and then through education and my experience, felt like, oh, this is it. Like, we are body, mind, spirit. And when we heal and nourish ourselves in one area, whatever area it is, whether it's a loving relationship, or whole foods, or we start a movement practice, whether it be yoga or cycle, whatever it may be, just moving, then our life in other areas also start to improve, because we are connected and integrative. So it felt very much an intuitive movement for me to land right here.
I like that explanation. And you took your experiences and tried to improve your life, but you did improve your life, and you're helping others. And I like how you're just keep learning too. I think that's helpful too. I think learning is good for our mindset, right?
Oh,
And,
absolutely.
It really truly is. And I've learned over the years that we're all so different, but yet we also have to have empathy. And you mentioned the word forgiveness. That's kind of that word, those words are tied together, kind of. And as you were talking, like I visualized, I was really into movement and all that stuff too. And I got a corporate job, but I um was doing what I like to do as well. But it's so important to have people like you talk about how to integrate all that stuff. And you can heal.
Mhm.
Um, but another thing popped into my mind is you probably believe this too, is keeping it simple, right?
Mhm. Keeping it simple is a big, big rule when we are wanting to change behavior and bring in new behavior on every level, on every level. And going back to this idea of expanding and learning, we are meant to expand. We are meant to move forward. And I know that change is inevitable. We know this, and everything is constantly in motion. So we are either in motion forward, expanding, learning, exploring, being curious, or we are with just no movement, literally going backwards
Right.
because nothing stands still. So our choice is we either go forward or our inaction is the choice that we're going to go backwards.
Makes you stagnant too, right? Yeah,
Absolutely. And this idea of self-compassion in integration. Somebody, I mean, I've worked with so many healthy people. And right now I work with people who are not so healthy, who are trying to get healthy in a medical model. And so the thing is that we all are really, whether you're super fit, but there's other areas of your life that feel like they're in chaos. In fact, a lot of these ultra athletes, and I'm not going to label them, but I'm just saying that we look at that and go, oh, that is the peak. That's what we should strive for. And well, what we know about ultra distances, ultra, activity is it's really not good. It passes that line of healthy. So they're not doing it. They're not
right.
running 100 miles because they want to get healthy.
That's something that I totally agree with you on. I'm a runner. And when I say that, I can still run. I mean, for over 40 years, but I don't run marathons. I don't run. I run. I keep it simple, but I do it, Kathleen, because it makes me feel better mentally as
Yeah.
well. It's just it kicks in that I forgot what hormone it is, but it makes me happy. And
Yeah. Well, the dopamine and serotonin
yeah,
and all
so
those
that's
good ones.
some people like to bike, so but I'm one of those people that like I'll walk but running is something that connected to me for some reason. But I people think I run marathons. I'm like, and those people that I know that do that, they get injuries. And that's another thing. I listen to my body. It's like, don't do that. Right.
Yeah.
And you continue running, Bridget, but don't be running, marathons and things like that. And it's everybody's different. I think that we need to respect that. You need to know yourself. And that's probably what you're doing when you're working with people, right?
Absolutely. And we can look at these people that run marathons or even more, the 50 to 100 miles. And I think it's an amazing mental feat. That's what it really becomes. Of course, it's a physical feat, but at that point, it's such a mental thing to overcome. So it's definitely a curious place, but we can look at that, we people who don't do that and say, oh man, that's what I should be doing, or they're so healthy because that's what we think of as quote healthy and it may not be healthy first of all, but that's only one aspect of our health,
Right.
right? So you can have somebody who's a runner, an avid runner, who's or very good at what they do in sports, but if we look at their integrated well-being and they're in a relationship that's not healthy, or they have an inner voice that is cruel and self-punishing, or they have an eating disorder, this is not healthy. This is not an integrated healthy. But we can look at them and go, wow, that's healthy. And so we can
Right.
strive for that. And That's not what we want to strive for. We want to strive for integrated, balanced, holistic health. And so it's really looking at different areas of our life. And so that's what I really, my message is that that's what good health is a whole integrated look at where we are in our life, where we want to bring some more love and attention and intention. And then what you said is keeping it really simple and helping people get tools so
Right.
that you can start changing. And we do keep it simple so that it is accessible to everybody, wherever wherever they are.
Right. So as you were talking, we also made me think we have to change. You have, whoever it is you're talking, they need to change their mindset to make focus on what they want, really the goal in a way, or like you said, you don't know what's causing you stress in one way or because you got, I don't know if the balance is the right word, but the rhythm, maybe the rhythm of your day in your life. And I'm very fortunate. My husband, I joke that he tolerates my love for running, but he knows that that's me. And so he does it, and I think, he's very supportive. So I don't feel bad doing that. Right. So,
Sure.
and he likes to go bike. I don't. So that's works out just fine. And that's, you got to, especially if you're in a partnership or marriage, you need to support each other as well. That would help in your relationship too. Right. I'm assuming.
Well, of course, of course. And that's a good example of how one area of our life could tweak our joy, our happiness, our whole experience. So, for example, you go out running and every time you go out running, he gets angry or he feels resentful and then so you get an attachment and you start rebelling like I need to run and anyways it becomes a friction in the relationship. And
Yes.
that's a great example of one thing that can really affect everything. So it can affect your running. It can affect how your joy of running, your connection to it. And so yes, it's wonderful to have a partner who supports us in those areas. And you said mindset. In my book, Start With One, I wrote it because I wanted to share the idea of integrated health, what it was, how how we can look at it. Of course, we're all so individual, but what we can look at is our body, what we put in our body, in our food, and what we drink, and what we use on our body that goes right into our bloodstream. All these things is how we take care of our body, and then of course, and we move in our movement habits, and then we have our mind, which is what do we put in our mind from
Right.
the news, our
Right.
thoughts, and what do we dwell on? Are we worriers, like self-identified worriers? And I know people that say, "Yeah, oh, I'm a worrier." What a thing to identify with. It's really disabling. I think joy, worry, it takes joy away. But what are we focusing on? And the news and um,
Right.
the people that we hang around and our the thoughts that we focus on and then our spirit, like are we connected with a sense of purpose and passion and do we experience joy and do we have gratitude in our life and is that something that we really bring energy to? It's like being focused and intention on saying thank you for the simplest things.
Yes. Yes.
So that's how I look, and I really want people to look at their health like that because when we improve again in one area, the other areas improve. And then also not just what it is, but how can we go about step by step to change practices, our habits, unconscious behaviors that we may be practicing for decades that are not productive. We have now awareness like, whoa, yeah, I am doing that. I want to change that. So a step by step way, keeping it simple to bring new behaviors in with a lot of attention because bringing new behaviors takes a lot of work, mostly with attention and mindset. And but there's a step by step way we can do that, and that's really what because I think that we can know what to change, but if we don't know how to change, we lack hope. So I really wanted to bring hope that anybody can change. Our bodies, our minds are made to
I I love
move.
that word, hope. It's one of my favorite words because some people think it's cheesy, but I don't. And we're gonna not always have everyone agreeing with you 100%, but whatever. I think you're being you, right? You're being authentic. I think that's really helpful. And I think maybe I'm glad this is all coming out now more, but what you're doing, this kind of stuff to help people, I see, I could be wrong, but my understanding is there's so much stress now with the all this tech as well, or should say social media, but tech people get addicted to it and they look at themselves. And you'd mentioned earlier about comparing yourself to an athlete, an elite athlete, and you're down, you talk to yourself negatively, maybe. And I think some people are doing that. And I've always been fascinated with movement, right? But that's just part of my DNA. Is that the right word? But I never, Kathleen, thank God, I never wanted to go be some professional athlete because I think I would subconsciously listening to, it's not good for you if you did that. Because think about the stress, I just, like I said, circling back to athletes, the stress that they probably have that we aren't aware of, right?
Certainly. My daughter, my youngest daughter was a competitive gymnast for a while, and oh, that's so brutal. I do think that is an expression though for people when they just have these talents, and
Yes.
if I had the talents and I had the access, I think I would probably have just, dove right in. That was not an option for me. But yes, I think, when and I think as the years go on, if you look at like gymnastics as an example, and you look at gymnastics 20 years ago, I remember hearing Mary Lou Retton say, I could never be a gymnast today because what they do today, we did not even dream about when she was.
Right. I was a gymnast in high school and I was really good at the imagine this, the vault because it involved running. But now, right, it's just crazy what those athletes are doing, the gymnasts.
Yeah, it is. It is. But you mentioned, comparison, and we're the ones that make ourselves suffer. And one of the ways is certainly through our patterns of critical self thinking and talk, but certainly comparison. And we
Yeah,
do compare us to a fake world, which is just crazy,
right.
right? We're comparing ourselves to these social media people who are it's very produced images, and that's all it is. It's really a produced. It's not real. It's not authentic, and we compare ourselves to this. And there's been some form or fashion of this forever. I've always thought it was funny that they sell perfume on TV, right? Because you do not smell a perfume. You cannot smell it. You don't even know if you like it. But they're not selling the perfume. They're selling the image of what you
Right,
think you could be if you
right.
wear it.
That's true. You're gonna look just like her if you got that scent on.
Right? And how sexy and sensual you're going to be. Oh my goodness. And so this is what they sell us on. And this is just an extension of this same idea of social media. And there's that saying, comparison is a thief of joy.
Yes, you're right.
Mhm.
I think that is why a lot of people hold themselves back because they're so afraid.
Mhm.
And then that adds unnecessary stress. And you, Kathleen, you overcame all those, I should say obstacles, but you did. And in your book, it's called Start with One. I like
Yes,
that. That's to me makes me think simple.
absolutely. Yeah.
It,
The subtitle is A Simple Approach to
uh,
Upgrade Your Health, Body, Mind, and Spirit.
it's true. We need to we all, I think our culture, I don't know if it is cool. We're just so go, 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 go. And I grew up in that environment and I don't know, it was tough. right? I raised boys, and Lord help me. And but I enjoyed it, but at the same time, I try to keep my sanity. And thank God I was open, being authentic, and telling the truth to my spouse. I think that's just important, you know, when you're going through things, and you need to have the right people around you. I think you mentioned that as well. You need to have positive people and not the negative people. And it's good that people are opening up at what you are doing. I did the IIN like you, but I did it to help me. And I did a little bit of, I didn't have done coaching, but I did like speaking around it. And I would speak to like doctors and speak to, because they need to need help too, right?
Absolutely.
I don't think they were trained in nutrition, right?
No, they need, and it is our contribution to the whole, the whole of
Oh,
health.
yes, there's a whole, that's a good point.
Yes. To really to be a part of education, and what we know too is everything is changing, and that's really, even in my first nutrition class in the early 80s in college, my teacher said, at least half of what I'm teaching you now is going to change. And I remember thinking at the
Right.
time, like, what? Well, and I get that now. Of course it is. And so we will say, this is the way it is, and this is a fact. And then a year, two, three, four. Well, actually, what we found was, and it's the other opposite. So we have to also hold on to things lightly because everything is changing, and find what works for us.
Right.
Not have to be solid right, hard right, like this is it, this is the only way, because everything changes, and we think, well, that's science. I know science is constantly changing.
They're learning, just like, they're learning too.
Yep. Yep.
Wow. Yeah, that is a really important. People just need to, I think, to me, to help for my personal perspective for the integration is to be curious. That is to me, for me, I'm being curious is what helps me be open. But you got to be open and not have your door closed.
Exactly. And I love that word, curious. Curious is an attitude. It's like a way of seeing the world. And the opposite of curious is like judgment,
Yes.
which is very closed and critical, my way. But judge, but curious is open and tell me more, and it's really exploring. And I think what I have learned more, especially in the just recently, and I've known this, but I think it's just coming into a new way, and it could just be as I get older. It's probably just as I continue to move forward, but um, there are we're there's right in a lot of things. I mean, when we look at the recommendations for eating, this is the way to do it. This is you gotta eat this meat, and you gotta eat all these vegetables, or don't eat meat. Actually, don't eat meat. Eat fish, and then, well, no, don't eat any animal. Don't eat milk. Well, maybe there's truth in all of that.
Hmm.
And I think really, if we know that it exists in food science, and we will find experts to back up anything we believe in this area,
Right.
whether we want to eat in a carnivore way, we're going to find research and science that says
Right.
yes,
You'll support it. Right.
right? Or vegan, we'll find plenty of evidence, and they're both right. Uh, so this is, if we can kind of stay open and be curious to other things like this in our life, and what other people are doing, and how we are kind of experiencing the world, then it does keep us open, and we can continue to learn and expand because of our curiosity.
I like that. I like that. And it also, you're just going to develop stronger relationships and being more and not creating unnecessary tension. Is that the right word? And and that's one of the things I did with my health issues. I would only work with doctors who would let me ask some questions because that's just my personality. And they were kind. There was a couple that I I shouldn't say fired, but like, bye, because they weren't curious enough, right? And I don't remember what their names were, but I'm not going to say it. But I'm like, bye, because I knew they weren't going to do what's best for me, that particular patient. Every patient is different. Like you said, it could be right. And curiosity is definitely something that I think we should all be more open to. And it will allow that balance, the integrating what you're trying to do, your body, mind, and your spirit together. And
Well,
that is, I just love what you're doing. And I like that you wrote a book called Start With One. And that gives you a lot of some credibility as well to have that out there, because a lot of people, my background is the publishing world, by the way. That is hard work, what you did. And so that shows you the tenacity that you have. And I think people everybody's a little different, but some people, I'm one of those that prefer to read rather than just watch a video. But it's okay to have videos too, because you have different people,
right.
what their interest is. And I love, this is so cool what you're doing. Can you let us know where the best way to learn more about you, Kathleen?
Sure, sure. I just want to say one thing about, I just say bravo to you
Yeah.
for bringing your curiosity as a value that you valued in those who were treating you.
Mhm.
Because obviously it was something you valued enough to say, huh, this isn't going to work for me because you don't seem curious enough to expand. So bravo to you and honoring yourself, seriously.
Right.
Yeah, and so yeah, I wrote Start With One, and I thank you for just kind of looking at that. It was a big feat. I didn't know what I was doing, but I really felt called to write this book, and so I started with one. I started with one page, with one idea, with that's how I did, because I didn't know how. I'd never written a book before, and I did this by myself, and so I really worked through this whole how to, and I started with one. So yes, I can be found on KathleenKlug.com that's my health coaching page. I work with groups and individuals and help them walk through this process of healthy change, healthy behavior, and how to integrate that. And then KathleenKlugBook.com, which is where my book, my journal is, and my ebook.
Yeah, ebooks, people like that too now. People talk
Yeah,
about sustainability, Kathleen.
sure.
We need to be open to
And
that.
an audiobook is there too.
Audio is good too. People like that as well. So I have just one last question for you. What is just one takeaway for the listeners that you recommend that they do to try to, I know we talked a lot about different things, that keeping it simple and curiosity is just one thing that we didn't touch on or take away for them to do integrative health?
Yes. Well, start with one. That's it. And whatever it might be, you don't have to know step 2 or 3 or 4. You don't have to worry about getting really complicated. Keep it simple, as you said in the very beginning, and start with one thing. And if that one thing takes 5 minutes, it's okay, because it's movement. And I love it. Somebody just told me again yesterday, people tell me this, I have you in my brain, start with one. And I'm like, oh, that's so nice. Because I think it's a really hopeful, accessible message that we can change and get healthy. So yes, my goal, my hope is to bring hope for health and healing. And I say start with one thing.
I,
And no one thing is too small if it's in the right direction.
I love that, because you're kind of checking and testing it out, and you can tweak it if you need to, rather than all those other, I should say, crazy regimens that people were recommending. You're going to more likely proceed, like you said, start with one, and it's not as stressful or overwhelming.
Right.
That's how I love this, Kathleen. I so appreciate you connecting with me. And for those that are listening, I'll include the link she mentioned in the show notes. And thank you again, Kathleen, and hope everyone has a great day.
Thank you.